You're listening to a Rock Candy podcast.
You are now entering Magnified Studios. Welcome.
Coming to you from Magnified Studios, Magnified Pod presents It's Hard to Find a Podcast, covering your favorite indie bands from the 90s Christian alternative scene. Put your tape decks on record. I am Andrew.
I'm John.
And this is our podcast. And wouldn't you know it, we're doing something that we thought we'd be doing and talking about in old season 3.
Indeed.
We're talking Craig's brother. We're talking a little Too Bad Eugene.
Yes.
Because we got Jason Ragan on the pod today. Have a little conversation about his time playing with Craig's brother, playing on the new record that's coming out in November, and talking about his time that he's going to be playing on the road, hopefully, with Too Bad Eugene. We talked so early into season 3 about the top possibility of talking about Craig's brother this season, and then a year has come and gone, and
I think as Jason alludes to, the record maybe took a little longer to materialize than initially hoped. But you know what? It's just going to make it all the better after all that careful time spent on it. And it just so happened that Jason, our dude, Patreon punk, Jason Ragan even, is playing, he plays guitar on the new Craig's Brother record, Easily Won, Really Deserved, out November 11th, and we'll be playing live with Too Bad Eugene, songs from their new record, Distance, out this very week on September 14th. So he wanted to come on and talk about his experience in those bands and making these records. And we were like, it's indie rock, but we're willing to hit our decks and get our decks out and hit the half pipe. I'm a skater. And talk about that skate punk again. So we're dipping back into some season 3 territory this week. It's great.
Yeah, we're greasing up our trucks, putting some new grip tape on the boards.
That's right.
We're gonna gleam that cube.
Gleam it so hard. It's gonna be great.
It's been a while since that cube has been gleamed, John, but I think we're
glad to be gleaming again.
Hashtag gleaming again.
Getting out of our sad boy bedrooms and hitting the streets again. Having a good time.
After it's been a while since we've covered something as fast paced as Craig's brother. So throwing on my Craig's brother track list from last season. And I was just like, oh my God.
It's pretty great.
It's been it was pumping me up. And those drums, the shreddy guitars. And now the prospect of could a Craig's brother Too Bad Eugene tour materialize? Hope
so, man. Midwest Patreon punks, get at us.
I know, right? And you'll find your boys in the center of that pit.
Oh man,
tearing it up.
Freedom! I'd go crazy.
Oh.
Some of that Backstreet Boys sound we get into.
It's true. Ted Bond's back. All right.
Oh, he loves us. Well,
I mean, I think with their first music video, they doing all wearing white suits or something like that. That's
walking on the beach.
That
sounds like them.
Classic Ted.
Well, let's dive right into this interview, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Keep the people waiting.
No.
But I've got my mission. I've got my own vision in my own mind. Did you really believe
John, today on Magnified Pod, we welcome Jason Ragan. You may know him from his time playing with Craig's brother, and you may know him now as he plays out with Too Bad Eugene. They both have new records coming out this week, September 14th. We have the new record Distance by Too Bad Eugene, and then Craig's brother, November 11th, Easily Won, Rarely Deserved. We got him shredding on that record. Jason Ragan, welcome to Magnified Pod.
Boys,
how's it going?
Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So we were kind of imagining you could take us through a little bit about both the new records coming out and your involvement in them, your history with both bands.
Okay.
We just thought we'd talk about like sort of your history playing in the scene and
sure. Yeah. I mean, we could go through some of that. We could touch on some of the tooth and nail stuff. It kind of all is kind of one big package thing, but yeah, we can do all that stuff. I'll start how I kind of even heard of them. When I was a little kid, I always had this thing about guitar. I really wanted to play this guitar. I wanted to make those noises. Just never knew how or where to do that. I was lucky enough to go to a high school that had a guitar class as an option. So I kind of jumped in there. And Adam and I he went to the same high school and he was in guitar class and he was
cool.
Ripping and shredding. Like you walk in and I could hear all the noises of all my favorite Metallica tunes. And who was it? It was him over there just doing it. Like, wow, I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
So then just kind of going through that, like it was kind of kind of in the Santa Cruz area. Back then it was still, I mean, Good Riddance was huge. I mean, they're still big, but back then it was like, that's Good Riddance. They're from they're in our town. No Use for a Name is right over the hill. So there was all this really cool stuff happening. And it just was a thing that you did. Like, just you get friends together that liked to play music and knew how to do something or didn't. And you just like, we'll figure it out. And then started doing it. So I had started a band with a bunch of my buddies, but Adam at one point or another ended up in this band Craig's brother.
Right.
And before they just had a demo EP thing, which you guys did a review on. There are pieces and parts of that on that early years record. Back then that stuff was like blew our doors right off. Like these guys are just like all those other ones, right? They're our age. I know them, right? Mm-hmm. So it was like this major thing for us, like, but also with that, the high school I went to was a private school. So there's a lot of, involvement in church stuff. And we were all kind of church kids and you did, just kind of the world that you kind of revolved in. And MXPX was like the new thing, right?
Yeah.
And you could like go like to see, like you can go to Good Riddance and it'd just be like, this is insane, this is crazy. And but it wasn't like, you kind of have to twist a few arms to like, hey, I'm gonna go to this thing, right? I'm 14. I'm gonna go see these guys. Oh, well, what about, you're not gonna go to church, like, hey,
Right.
But then it became this thing where you had bands like MXPX they sound like these guys, right? And it kind of opened up the door to be able to go to some of those things. And it was like, oh, it's cool, fun, safe. Everybody's having a good time,
Sure.
And so, how it all goes, right? So then it's like, Tooth and Nail and it's this band and that band and everything's really exciting. And then Craig's brother, right? Here they come and they sound like Lagwagon, right?
Yeah.
But they're now on this Tooth and Nail thing. And it's kind of just part of, I don't know, the culture that we all kind of came from at the time.
Sweet.
So anyway, Adam got in it and then it was like, oh yeah, this is fantastic. This is my guy. And he did that for a while. I had a little band called Next in Line. We tried to kind of be all the things, try to figure out who we were, what our sound was. I always felt like those guys were so ahead of us. Everything they did was like fantastic, And you're just trying to like, oh, how do we do this? And we had a lot of fun. We actually had a song on a Tooth and Nail sampler
Cool.
It was I'm Your Biggest Fan, Volume 2.
Yeah. I was going to say, I knew your name for sure, the band name.
So we had that. And then we had a record we put out on Indie Vision Music that was like in the early 2000s.
Cool.
But when Adam and Andy decided they wanted to do this other thing, Too Bad Eugene, they went that way. Craig's brother was doing their thing, and I was doing a thing with my band. And then at a certain point, my guys wanted to really give it a go and like move to LA or, down south where it's all really happening and really get plugged in. And life was just different for me and one of the other guys that was in next in line. And at that time, I was kind of becoming really good friends with Adam. And we decided that they were kind of, slowing down, kind of pieced together a different band, and did that for a little bit. And then Craig's brother at one point needed a guitar player. And I was like, at that point, I hadn't been playing for a little. And that's just kind of what you got used to doing. Like you went to band practice, 2-3 nights a week, and you went and played shows wherever they would have you. And then that kind of wasn't part of my routine for a while. And then Craig's brother was always there. It's like one of those guys, they're just always there. I'd listen to the records all the time. I knew all the songs. I mean, I didn't maybe know how to play them all, but I knew I could probably figure it out. There was an opening, and I checked in with those guys, and they were like, yeah, come on, let's come and practice. And I went and practiced with them once, and then they were like, yeah, we have a show Friday. I'm like, oh, okay. It was like on a Wednesday. And then that became my involvement. They had already done, obviously, Homecoming. They had done Lost at Sea, and they had just done the Epidemic record.
Sure.
So I kind of was on the tail end of what they had just done with that. And we did a bunch of shows and had some fun. I mean, it was definitely weird being on that side after so long being on the other side of just being a fan and a friend and a listener. And now I'm up there doing it. I mean, it was just crazy. The thing in Craig's brother has always been kind of like we'd have a lot of things, and then it just kind of quiets down for a bit. And then there's like a lot of stuff to do, and then it kind of quiets down. So it was kind of in one of those periods where everybody was kind of like, yeah, not really sure like how much we're going to do. And I had another friend that wanted me to play in his band. So I decided, well, let's give that a try. You just kind of lose touch when you're not, in the immediate community with some of your people, This latest go was just another one of those like, hey, do you want to play with us? We're going to fire this thing back up. We're going to do a record. We've been working on it. And I was like, yeah, sure. Give it a shot. And then the pandemic hits. And then we're not like, we're trying to do the best we can with what we have. During that time, I had noticed that Adam had kind of fired up Too Bad Eugene again. They were kind of going through that stuff. And then we go to play the show, and they're playing. So it was like almost like a family reunion of sorts, seeing everybody and hearing the new stuff and talking about old times and all that. I say maybe it was like a week or two later, Adam reached out and was like, you want to play with us? I was like, sure, why not? Let's do it all. Let's get it all in. So jumped in with them, and they had a couple of shows that were booked down in LA that he really kind of wanted a traditionally 3-piece, but he kind of wanted to add an extra guitar just so it would be a little more full. And here we are. And we've got 2 new records coming out. The new Too Bad Eugene record comes out on the 11th of I'm sorry, the 4th. I knew I was gonna blow this. I'm sorry, Adam. So yeah, so that's the 14th of September is the Too Bad record, and then the Craig's brother record's on the 11th of November.
Seems like a lot of it is just after all these years has come full circle.
Definitely.
I mean, who could have calculated over 20 years ago, this dude who's noodling and shredding on his guitar, that you would become buddies with them, and then this other band that you admired, you'd play with them, and then like they would both be like 25 some years later be releasing albums within a couple months of each other. It's also nuts wild. that it just kind of comes how that kind of stuff comes together after so many years.
It is very strange, but super fun.
I can only assume there'll be a massive tour so we can see both bands. That would be wonderful. Sometimes I see these California shows and we're like, damn, we wish we could be there.
It's so rude, man. Like, got Five Iron doing, after all the coverage we did of Five Iron and so many, man, and then their first show is this weekend and it's in Colorado, and
right.
it's just like, man, I just so desperately want to be there. And I've never had a chance to see Craig's brother play. And so like during doing this pod, we just get so deep into these bands, and then the reality is like there are some bands that will never, if we hadn't seen them, we'll never see them play.
Yeah.
But then, you still have bands like Slick Shoes and Craig's brother and MXPX still putting out records, Five Iron still putting out records. So yeah, that, and now with shows becoming a thing again, the hope, at least my hope, is that I get to be able to see you out on the road. And I don't know, maybe if you're doing a Too Bad Eugene and a Craig's brother, you had to be pulling double duty. Would you be able to swing that, or is there
that's kind of been swirling lately.
Yeah.
So
you heard it here first, folks. Too Bad Eugene, Craig's brother. It's confirmed.
I think that it's more of like the likely conclusion, right? Like if you know either band and you know that they're somehow connected, I think, especially, I mean, you got the two records coming out pretty close to each other on the same label. The likely conclusion is, yeah, you guys should just do it together. Just go and do some stuff together, which I think would be totally rad.
Yeah.
I think the first time that even came up, Adam looked at me, and he was the one that was telling me about it. He had talked to Ted a little bit about maybe putting together something like that. And Adam looked at me, we were at practice, and Adam goes, "What do you think about that?" And I was like, I mean, I think it would be awesome for somebody that's into the bands. And he goes, "But that means you have to go, you have to do it twice." And I was like, just got to bring more outfits, I guess.
I support that.
I mean, all I would say is I just need Adam to come in on Craig's brother set to do some Who Am I and My Annie.
There you go.
We definitely do. We have been doing My Annie at the Too Bad Eugene shows.
Ooh, hell
Cool.
Yeah.
So, and it's as you'd expect it to be. Fantastic.
Yes,
so much fun.
In preparing for, talking and chatting about Craig's brother, since it has been a significant amount of time since we've covered them on the pod, and in anticipating this new album coming out, threw down on some Craig's brother, and gosh, I just can't believe how hard, especially Homecoming goes. And when you talk about when you hear a band like Craig's brother, and then you're a band like just observing them, you're just like, how do you even compete with like how fast they can play and some of the shredding that they do? And that's got to be, but then now you get to play with them. That's just got to be, it's got to be pretty satisfying.
But it is. It's also very daunting. Like, I have to do that stuff, right?
Right.
I'm not the best in the world at it, but it's fun. It's very challenging. I think back to some of the reviews that you guys did.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about this the other day. Ted had sent me a bunch of the new stuff that is mastered and ready to be pressed into all the various forms that they're doing. And I just thought, oh, you know what? Andrew is going to be really happy about this. He is going to be really happy. John's going to be excited that it doesn't have any Lost at Sea.
I feel like we struck a nerve with Ted on our Lost at Sea review. Did not mean to cause offense.
No, I mean, and we talked about this recently, that we, after having discussed some of these albums in our honest opinion, in our honest feelings and our opinions about them, like, we don't want to intentionally put out negativity into the world. And like, that's never our intention. Our intention isn't to like find an album that we don't like and then like shit all over it. That's like not what we're trying to do. we're just trying to be honest and genuine, and
it would be really boring if you agreed with everything.
Right. Yes, right. Exactly. We've said
it's
that
okay
a lot.
To
like
have opinion.
If we went through every album, we're like, and here's another classic song that we both love. Like that's
love it. It's
perfect. No notes. Next song, no notes. But yeah, it's just the songs that I've heard put out so far from the record, I've really enjoyed, and so here's a
newsflash.
What's up?
Those aren't on it.
Okay.
Really?
So All the Way, Fake Book, Are You Unhappy? Like not like Terrible Slave, those aren't on it?
Terrible Slave is on it.
Okay.
Those other ones that were like an EP.
Okay.
Those are not on it.
Oh shit. So we're not even, that's like we're not even scratching the surface.
More. You get 12 more.
Dope.
Awesome. Okay. That's man, this EP was just like a little bit of, it's like an amuse-bouche. It is an appetizer of sorts.
I think honestly, I think it kind of came down to like the amount of time it was taking. There were plenty of tunes. I think it was more of like, hey, we can throw a few things out there. Also, I would say that we had planned on playing this festival in Canada, the Red Bridge Fest.
Right.
We were supposed to do that in 2020, and obviously pandemic, right? Got canceled the first time, got canceled the second time, and then we were supposed to go there in June. We were 2 days before leaving, and COVID infected the camp, and we didn't go. So I think part of it was having some of that stuff to play there as well, and given the folks that have supported the band and are waiting for the new record, it was just a way of like, all right, here's some material, and so those are the EP. If you go onto Bandcamp, you could see what the track listing is. It has another song that you can listen to, but you can see all the track listing there.
Like what prompted, after 10 years, it's time for a new Craig's Brother record. What prompted, after more than 20 years, it's time for another Too Bad Eugene record?
I think for both bands respectively, I think it's just part of the things that we're used to doing, or at least being involved in. And I think we go through these periods where there's not a lot of action, there's not a lot of motion, and it just gets a little lackadaisical. And but it's always there. It's always, I mean, when we get together and play, it's like, yeah, this is so much fun, and we love doing this. I think it just, as you get older, schedules get busy, people are doing other things. Craig's Brother is one of those bands. If you look like on the Wikipedia page, you could see how many people have been in Craig's Brother.
Yeah,
right.
That's always kind of been a challenge. So when you have that coincides with wanting to do stuff, but it feels like it's kind of an uphill climb all the time, it gets frustrating. But it's still there. It's always there. Adam is a little bit different because Adam and Andy, it was really their thing. And I don't know, Adam's brother played drums on those first two records. His brother's a little older than he is, so he's got some other commitments family wise, that are, I think, more of a they're more of something front and center for him. I don't know that for sure. I'm just, from what Adam's talked about, I think that's kind of the thing. Andy is one of the most amazing musicians I've ever known. I just don't think Andy enjoys the live stuff. He loves the studio, writing tunes. That's all good. So it was kind of, I think maybe it was just a little bit of Adam kind of being out there trying to like, how do I put this together and find the people that are excited about doing it. He was also going through a time in his life where he was really focused on school. He did like a doctorate. He moved to Scotland for a couple of years. I mean, things were just kind of going. I think what really kind of kicked it off was maybe the pandemic. Just like, okay, well, there's not really anything else to do. And when your first nature is to like pick up an instrument and write something, even Adam, he's one of the better songwriters I've ever been around. Like, I don't know how it just happens. Like, it just kind of like these fantastic things just appear. Like, oh, I wrote this. Like, oh, of course you did. You're great at it. I love him to death, right? But I think for both parties, it's that thing. Like, this is kind of what you do, and when you don't do it, you know that you really miss it. And then I think at some point there's that teeter effect of like, yeah, we're gonna do it now, or we're gonna figure it out. And if I get a handful of things together, then we'll put something out. Hard to do sometimes, but it's always there. I mean, look at all those like MXPX, they've been going for how long, but they still keep churning out things. Yep. I'm sure it's the same thing for 5-iron, right? After so long, like, oh, we should really like do something, right? Because it's fun, right? You enjoy those things.
With a ska band, like, imagine trying to do what you're doing, but with like twice the people.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my very first bands was a ska band. That was short-lived.
Ooh,
what was that band called?
Yeah, what was that band?
Oh no, I'm not sure I should say.
Okay. That's fair.
We were called Johnny Be Good.
Okay.
And we had a handful of tunes, and we were like, that was like the first band that we had created. That band actually became Next in Line.
Okay.
We had three horn players.
Wow.
We had little idea of what we were doing. We loved to go see the Supertones and 5-iron and the Boss Tones and the Suicide Machines. We loved all that, no doubt. We loved all of it. We just weren't that awesome at it.
Sure.
we certainly tried, but we were our horn players then had to go off to college and the military, and so then we lost the horn players. They were gone, and we became a punk band,
as many ska bands did in the late 90s. As they
yes,
those
bands
sold
are hard
out
to do.
They sold out. They sold their horn players, and they traded their upstrokes for palm mutes.
I definitely do love that music. I don't listen to it as much as I used to. I always enjoyed it. It's fun, happy, but it kind of springboards from like where I came from listening to music. Like Phil Collins, one of my favorites. You hear those horn section going, like it brightens your day.
Yeah.
And if it's good music, it's good music. That's just the bottom line.
That's right.
And there are some bands like Goldfinger. That's one of my big ones too. That had all the elements for me, right? It's got the horn stuff. It's got the punk stuff. It's got even some metal in there. It's just good. If it's good stuff, it's good stuff,
Speaking of good stuff, as you're thinking about how to approach these new albums, I mean, I know you played on the Craig's Brother record. You didn't play on the Too Bad Eugene record, but you're playing on, you're playing on the tunes live. What was the approach behind the sound for each of these records? Was there an intentional goal with how they wanted them to come out? Was it just what came out naturally? Because we were so I think excited by what Craig's Brothers' future might hold after Devil's in the Details. We were really pumped about the direction of the songwriting, and then obviously for Too Bad Eugene, it's been like decades, so those are kind of different paths to take for putting out new stuff. So can you talk a little bit about how the approach was to sort of decide to make whole new records for each of these projects?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to the Craig's Brothers side of things, I know that Steven, who's a phenomenal musician himself, and he was in Hey Mike, it was his thing. Right. He was in this other band called This Is Legend, which is amazing. But he's been in Craig's Brother for a long time. I mean, he was in there, I think, when they were doing Lost at Sea. I think he was there for doing some of, he's on that record. I think for him, this was a project for him that he really wanted to put his stamp on and really be heavily involved in all aspects, which he was. And then, of course, you have Ted. Those two have been buddies for a long, long time, and they think very similarly when it comes to some of the Craig's Brothers stuff. And so this was really kind of their tag team. Hey, we're going to make this record. And I mean, I think you just kind of pick up from what you've done and what you know you didn't like, and kind of what you've heard that you really do like, and try to push it that direction.
Sure.
Some of the stuff is can push you in certain directions, just kind of based on who you're working with. How much money you have to spend is a big one. I think there was a lot of work done in today's day and age that's a little more accessible to do things on your own. Right. And as you've gone through the process numerous times, you've learned certain things on how to do it and how you want it to sound. So, those two really worked their butts off to come up with what we have. And I don't know, man, it's good. I mean, cool. I love the way it sounds. I'm excited for people to hear it. I mean, you could hear in the new one that was released the difference in tone. I mean, it's the guitars sound great, the bass sounds good, Ted's vocals are fantastic. The harmonies, the vocal work is one of the big ones for me, and that was always a big thing for me with Craig's Brother in general. Is that like that choral aspect? Like, wow, look what they're doing. I think back when the Homecoming released, I think HM did an article about that record, and I believe there was a tagline in there that was like Lagwagon meets the Backstreet Boys or something like that. Just because of the harmony, the vocals, and then you have like this kind of Lagwagon-esque. I might have to go back and look and make sure that's what it actually said. I'm pretty sure that's what it said.
Somebody should have said that.
But some of the new stuff is fantastic, and I think it's just a culmination of kind of how much work that they've done in the past, recording stuff, finding kind of what the sound should be, just the sound that you like. With Too Bad Eugene, I'm not sure exactly to how to answer that question. I know that Adam was super excited, and all the guys super excited to get that stuff down and put something out. And it has been a long time, but I think when I hear the stuff that's there, it just sounds like they're just having a ball. They're just having fun. Of course, you want it to sound good. I've heard all kind of the various instances, mixes and things, but now that I've heard them mixed and mastered and kind of what that and sound as, it just, I don't know, it just blows me away. It's just amazing to me, like how far the technology has gotten to where you can do this stuff on your own and not be in a studio looking at a clock and wondering like when the meter runs out, and there is some freedom, I think, in how it's done now. You can kind of take your time, and I think there's a thin line there too, right? You can't take so long where you're just trying to make it so perfect it just never finishes. But I think for both sides, I'm very excited to see what people's reactions are. I think both of them sound amazing. And they're really two different things. I mean, I think in the past, maybe it's just because knowing them and being around them, you just kind of think that it's maybe one and the same, but they're so different. And one thing I will say about both records is that I think I'm very proud of for them is that there's so many different aspects going on both records. The Craig's Brother record has so many different style. You're not going to sit there and everything's just, the double time, there's a lot of variations. And the same thing for Too Bad Eugene. There's some slow stuff. There's some super fast punky stuff. There's some super fun pop stuff. I mean, I don't know. It's exciting. I'm excited to see what you guys think.
Yeah.
No,
I have to talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. I am curious about if you have any insight into the different ways that Ted and Adam write. I mean, you said a little bit about like Adam is just like, oh, hey, here's this amazing thing I just pulled out of nowhere. But as far as like lyrics, I am curious about this new Too Bad Eugene song, Deconversion Story, and if you have any insight into it, because it's sort of telling it is a story of sorts, and about this girl who, grows up in the church, moves out west, works at a mega church, gets sort of burned out, and there's some stuff that goes down, and she's just like, ultimately ends up walking away from her faith, and then there's like tension with the family. I'm curious if this is we probably all have friends like this, but if this is something that Adam is pulling from personal experience, or why this song, and why now.
I don't know if I can speak to all of it.
Sure.
What I do know about both guys and how they kind of approach things is most of the stuff that they write about and talk about is something that they have a personal connection to. Maybe not necessarily a literal sense, but maybe they've had somebody that they knew that went through something. They're really good about putting kind of what's in front of them on paper, especially Ted. Ted is a guy that he doesn't really hold back there, and there's some of that stuff on the new record. I think it all translates to people. I mean, they don't necessarily throw somebody's name in there, but it's something that anybody can draw from. I don't know the deconversion's literal story, or if there is one. Adam can the way he just comes up with things. It's amazing. Really, both of them. I mean, most of the time when I hear the stuff, it's like, here it is. It's not like, I've been working on this thing, check it out. It's more of like, here's this thing I did, here it is. Let's learn it. Like, okay. So I normally don't get that stuff until the end. Like, so what's going on here, right?
Right.
It's I think Adam is more. I don't think he's as literal as Ted. Ted, in a lot of his songs, just puts it right out. Like, and if you're close to them and you kind of know, like, right off the bat, like, oh, okay, here we go. All right, I got this one. Like, wow, right? But again, it's not so straightforward to somebody that doesn't know all the walks of life around both bands. So there's stuff that is super relatable, like deconversion story. I'm sure there are other people that have had somebody in their life that may have gone through that experience, whether it's a guy or a girl.
Right.
A lot of it is how it fits, lyrically as you're writing it out. That's always been a tough one for me too, like trying to come up with just different words and lyrics that just don't seem to fit. But if you kind of change it, and instead of it being a song about a guy, make it a song about a girl, and that makes it easier. So there's, I think, some of that. Again, I don't know if that's specifically what he's doing on that song, but I know that that's some of the process. Trying to get a point across, maybe in a general sense, and still trying to be literal.
Right. Well, it's one of the things that I really appreciate about Ted's writing is he just lays it out there, and which is why I think John and I were both on that last EP, Devils in the Details. Like songs like, obviously, Follow Your Heart is a perfect song, and Maintaining Destiny is just like so up our alley in terms of going hard against American neo-fascism. It's just like more of that. I loved it. I was so it got like, I love an angry Ted. That's just but you go from like an extremely sweet song to like railing against Trumpism. It's just like the best. So that's if there's anything remotely like that on this new album, then definitely here for it.
I think you'll be excited. There's some angry Ted.
Hell cool. Yeah.
There is some angry Ted. But again, I think I'm more impressed with the fact that there's a nice rhythm to it. It's not like 13 tracks of Ted being angry.
Right.
Sure.
And there's not 13 tracks of acoustic stuff. Right. There's kind of a nice common thread. It just sounds really cool. I've been fortunate enough, as far as Craig's Brother and Too Bad Eugene are concerned, I've been able to hear all this stuff before it ever reaches everybody else for whatever reason. I'm just maybe at the right time, right place, the right time. I think there was only one record that I didn't hear. It was the Epidemic. I didn't hear that one. I was a little far removed at that time. But all the other ones I've gotten, like, here's the demo of like the thing that's coming out. And it's interesting to hear. I talk about it with Adam every now and again. There was a version of My Annie that had a totally different like vocal harmony part. And I was like, you should have kept that. And he was like, I don't remember that. And I'm like, hey, it's there. I had the tape before it was even, and it was cool to hear like some of those songs and how they changed.
Yeah.
And even with this stuff now, like I'm such a new fan of mixing and mastering, like just hearing them, like hear all the parts and trying to learn different things. And it is one way, but then when you like, there's something about that mastering thing that just makes the thing just jump off the page. And I'm blown away, totally blown away.
Yeah.
And maybe I shouldn't be, because I'm playing with them, but I'm excited.
Yeah, I think it's okay to say that.
It sounds incredible.
If you weren't excited, then that would be like, to me, kind of like a red flag. If you're just like, it's fine, it'll be okay to play these songs, but you want to be excited about the stuff that you're playing on, the stuff that they've been working on for years. That's
and to be like to get to play them too, like you were talking about, like, it's totally weird. It's totally weird. Like this is weird, but super fun. Yeah, super fun. And I will say, it's surprised me every time, because you go through these periods, like we haven't had anything for a while, right? And you kind of start, okay, I really like them, but whatever. I've moved on to this new sound or this new artist, and then like, oh, they're gonna have something. Every time that's happened, even for somebody that is as close to them as anybody, like just hearing the new stuff and just like, oh man, how do they do it? How do they do it? Yeah. Like, drives me crazy, but I love it.
No, I feel like that's a common thread through a lot of bands that we've talked about, where a lot of these let's say Tooth and Nail specifically, bands in the 90s were just cranking these records out to fill contract obligations, and this ongoing theme of being like, it didn't come out quite the way that I hoped it would, and I wish we had more time in the studio. Right. And then for a lot of these bands that we've covered who are getting back together years later, or never broke up but are just like taking a long time between records, having the chance now to really try to nail it in the way that they hoped to with earlier records, like that's such a satisfying thing, because like almost to a band, when we've covered these new projects, it's like they sound better than they ever have.
Right.
Yeah, and that's probably for a lot of reasons, but yeah, it speaks to that idea.
That makes me think of that band Acceptance. I don't know if you remember those guys. When we were doing a band together, me and Adam and Andy, they were on the label Militia Group, and I can't remember the guy's name. I think his name was Chad. I think he was running that label. He was at Tooth and Nail at one point, and anyway, he had signed those guys, and they had come out with this record, and it was like fantastic. Like, this is cool. Like, it was definitely that 2000s-y kind of, I don't know, I'd hate to like throw labels on stuff and it'd be totally wrong, but I'll just say this: it was fantastic music. And then they were like headed to like the big time from I think from the outsider's perspective. They were in kind of that like indie scene, and then they came out with this new record, Phantoms, which was incredible, and then shortly after that they were just gone. And then they came out with like two new records like in the last 5-6 years, and it was like, this is insane how good this is. Insane. And like, I couldn't stop listening to it, just loving it. And it's just unfortunate that I don't know if that's what I don't know, it just it blows me away.
I mean, to your point, there's probably a bunch of reasons that you have the time, that you've matured, that you know home studios and Pro Tools and things like that are at a level that they weren't 25 years ago. But like, yeah, I think it just really speaks to the commitment that a lot of these songwriters have to like good craft that just like is now finally coming to its fruition. It's really exciting to see that when you're like, oh, this band is still like doing the stuff that was exciting to me as a kid, but now it's like matured to another level. So
and like
about that.
I mean, if it's good, it's good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of stuff out there that it's not my thing, and some stuff that's fine, whatever. But yeah, if it's good, I'm in. I mean,
yeah, that's one of the things that I gave up a long time ago was the concept of guilty pleasures. And if I like something, if it hits my ear and it's pleasurable to listen to, then I'm in. I don't need it to be from a certain genre or certain scene. I don't need to prove anything to anybody. Life is already tragic enough as it is. Just give me good music that I put it on and it pumps me up. I don't care who makes it. I don't care who writes it. Let me, let me get excited about it. Especially if they're like positive, if there's like a positive like movement behind it, like if they're trying to do something good, like I don't need someone to like prove they're more punk than the next guy, whatever. Just like,
I definitely have. I mean, I think we all have that, like there are certain things that you really, really like, and then there's certain things you really don't like. And then there's kind of that middle ground of like, again, if it's good, I'm into it. Like I've never been a big country music person, and I am still that way. But I'm also not like, I was never like big into like the super gutter punk style scene. Like it just was never my thing. But for the most part, if it's got loud guitars and it's fast and there's aggression and harmony and all that, I'm in,
Yeah.
I can't say I can do that for the other genre country music. There's just something about it. I just can't. I don't know.
Well, you need to find the transitional artist, and I think there are some bands that in the country scene, sort of like more alt country, that might bridge that gap, even like cowpunk.
I think that's one that I like the least, but
what's that?
I don't know why. I think to me, like it's like because you're bridging the gap. I don't know. Again, it's one of those things. Like you hold on to some things. That's just one of them.
Yeah.
I can do like the older stuff sometimes.
Sure.
Like a Willie on an acoustic. I'm good with that.
Yeah. So no cowpunk on the new Craig's Brother and Too Bad Eugene albums. I heard that here first too.
Don't recall that. Don't recall that.
I mean,
there may be one in there.
I'll just throw out as I have a bunch on the pod. If you've never listened to Sturgill Simpson, I do. He's a dude from Kentucky, and he writes kind of like that old school sounding, what you're talking about, that old school sounding country music. And you should check out Meta Modern Sounds in Country Music. It's one of my favorite Sturgill records. And then he's done a couple albums where he's like does like has like a bluegrass band. And and I just love his voice. I love what it's because it's not like, because pop country to me I bristle at, and it's not my thing. But one of the reasons that I love certain country artists like Sturgill Simpson or Jason Isbell, or because these guys are telling stories. And
would you put that in the vein of like a Hank 3?
I would put him in there's definitely some crossover there. Yeah.
Like from a broader brush, it's kind of like more that direction than...
Yeah. Okay. There's it's definitely, there's not like a glossiness to it at all.
You may have solved it right here, bud. You may have solved it.
I'll send some stuff your way. I'll send.
Yeah, you do that. You send some stuff. I'll definitely give it I'll give it a try.
Sure. You know,
next season, all country for us.
Yeah, because like for me, you know, we're getting off topic here, but that's the podcast. Deal with it, people. You know, the first time I heard Sturgill Simpson and this song off of the Meta Modern Sounds album, the song's called Turtles All the Way Down. And when you think about country music, you're like, oh, these guys are going to be singing about, you know, broken hearts, and they're going to be talking about, you know, just like cheesy songs that you're going to hear at some wedding, you know, father-daughter dance at some wedding or some corny shit. But the song Turtles All the Way Down is talking about religion and how it wasn't religion that opened up his mind to the power of love. It was drugs, and it was drugs that made him like understand that love is at like the root of all things. And like, you don't really hear that on modern country radio. And I'm like, this is not what I was expecting to hear on just sort of like Kentucky singer-songwriter country guy. So I'm like, okay, there's something going on here. So I was like, this has piqued my interest.
I did get into a little bit of a bluegrass thing for a while there, but it was only because there was a Crossroads album by Bruce Hornsby and Ricky Skaggs that I thought was pretty great. I love Bruce, and I think they actually did like a TV version of that where they would play like each other's tunes and kind of mesh the sound. Pretty cool. Cool. And that you know what, that bluegrass stuff's that's not easy to play.
No,
for sure.
Like, you got to know what you're doing. Like, just like playing jazz, like that stuff's nuts.
Yeah, got that stand-up bass, got that mandolin.
Yeah,
got those fiddles.
Oh man,
that's
craft work.
Yeah, for sure. We were talking earlier about, you know, maybe players who prefer studio versus playing out live and vice versa. Is there a particular mode that you're most excited about? Do you really like one or the other? You know, is it a mix for you, or how do you feel? Like, what makes you most excited with playing songs from both these bands?
I definitely love the live thing. That the live stuff was always fun. I think it was always a favorite of mine, just because of the energy of it. You know, like there's no second chances at it, right? You just get up there and you go for it. However it turns out, it turns out. If you're having fun and people can recognize that, and at least you got it down, you know, it's an experience. I think where that comes from for me is just being a fan of music and going to things and having that experience of, maybe you saw somebody that you didn't know. I remember the first time I saw the Supertones. I didn't even know who they were. And at that point, I wasn't doing church. My family didn't grow up necessarily in like, we were Episcopalian. I guess.
Same here.
The word. Yeah. Yep, so I did that, but that was like an every Sunday thing. And my uncle was really heavily involved in the choir there. He passed away when I was 9. So then it was like, we're not going there anymore. Right. Because it was just too hard. Like, I didn't get it, but that's cool. But growing up in like those adolescent years, I didn't have a lot of live music to go see. And I had some friends that were going to this church, and I kind of started going, just kind of discovering what that was all about. And we did this trip to a theme park that's local for us here. And it turned out it was like a K-Love music festival there. And there's these guys, right? And I don't know if you remember, but the Supertones used to open up with like Creeping Death by Metallica.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Is there some live record where they play that or something?
They do it on the first record.
Okay.
Yeah, they there's a 2 records where they borrow Metallica riffs.
The first two. They do it on
Supertones Strike Back, they do as well.
Yes. What's the first one called? It's got the Yep. So for me, like at that point in my life, it was all in. Metallica was everything, Soundgarden, everything, right? So all that kind of stuff is what I knew. And I didn't know any of it. I mean, I think that night was like Audio A. And then we went off to this one area where there was another stage and there's this band and I saw some trumpets. And I'm like, what's going on here? I didn't even know what ska music was. I hadn't really been exposed to that. And then here they come and they start off with this thing. And I was like, I've never heard of these guys, but I'm here. I could feel the energy. They look like they're having a ball. Everybody else here is bouncing around, having a great time. And it just is that, I think that moment of like, this is really cool. I'm in, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, for
So
sure.
I think that translates for me, like just shows in general. Like I get excited. I'm excited to go do it.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Studio stuff is fun. Don't get me wrong, but that's
Sure.
kind of like, it's a different animal. Like you're going to go in there, you've practiced, you're just trying to get this stuff down, you know? It's more regimented, but live, man, you get to be out hanging with your friends, right?
Yeah.
Loud tunes, everybody's there. It's fun. I like it.
Absolutely. Just like us going to see Craig's brother and Too Bad Eugene the next year, hopefully.
It's going to be me and John opening up the pit.
That's right.
My Annie starts up. We start throwing bows,
belting.
If and when you get tickets, how's that? If and when.
Okay.
Right.
You're on the list.
Yes. We'll do it. But yeah, speaking of that, are there bands both from like other bands from when you were growing up in that scene, you know, contemporaries of yours, and then bands still today, like who got you the most excited seeing those shows live back then, and who today are still some of these artists for you that you're most pumped about?
Well, I'll say Good Riddance they've always been the guys.
Yeah.
I mean, they're right in our backyard. We had played a show recently and Luke came, which was really cool. Hadn't seen him in a while. But those guys for sure. And I don't know if you've ever been to a Good Riddance show.
A long time ago. Yeah.
Dude, I mean, we used to go to some of those in Santa Cruz at like the Vets Hall, and it just it's like an explosion in there. Like people's bodies are flying everywhere, but like, you know, it's just a different world. Again, I wasn't exposed to a lot of that stuff. Once I was, it was very strange at first. Like, here, this guy just went flying by me, and I'm thinking he's probably not alive, but they're just picking him up, and it was like what you did, and everybody's cool about it. It was very strange, but super rad and fun. They were a big one. No Use was always a big one for us. They were really hitting their stride when my band was starting to really figure out what we liked and how we wanted to sound. Of course, we wanted to sound like Craig's brother. We wanted to have all those really intricate parts and riffs, but No Use, they had that stuff too, and they were on Fat Records, and like all of our favorite bands are on Fat Records. You know what I mean? So it was just part of that, the excitement of that. Who else? Face to Face was always one of my favorites.
Yeah, I was wonder about Face to Face or like Strung Out or
Bad Religion. Strung Out was absolutely one of my
10-foot pole. I don't know, like
a 10-foot pole. I was always big on Pulley.
Sure.
I liked the way they kind of arranged things. Their vocal stuff was always really good. Lagwagon, obviously. Those guys are always great. Me First and the Gimme Gimmes. Wow. Fantastic.
I mean, we got to talk No Effects for a second.
No Effects for sure.
You know, like, have you heard this news that Fat Mike was saying that next year they're going to be calling it quits?
Yeah, I'm not sure how much I believe that.
You think, I mean, he said that they've had a good run, you know, it's that time. I don't know. You think he's just being...
Get some publicity going.
Get a little publicity?
You know what I think it is? I think it's just one of those, like, over the years, I think that maybe it's just, I mean, he could be being honest and being like, yeah, we're really going to do it. That would be like a punk rocky thing to do, right? Like, we're just not going to do it anymore. Like, oh, right. It's always like that counterculture thing, but I don't know. I feel like it's just, what else are they going to do?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, you look at bands like the Descendants. I mean, they were gone for a while, right?
Yeah.
But they're out doing what they want to do. I mean, maybe it's not going to be at the level of like touring 7-8 months out of the year.
Right.
But maybe you'll play, it looks like to me, the new thing is like this picking and choosing. We're going to do like a festival here and a festival there. Maybe not like the, every show is a festival every night of the week for months on end.
Yeah.
I was very surprised.
You can't do the Goldfinger.
Yes.
It's a lot.
I love them.
Absolutely.
Don't listen to our episode on the knife because I have opinions.
One of us was a fan.
I have opinions on Feldy's production style.
I definitely have opinions on this. I have a lot of opinions on this band. I'm somewhat sort of I have a little connection there as well. But that band for me was one of the ones that I found on my own. Like one of the only ones that I think I found on my own, just because I loved the artwork.
Mm-hmm.
Like anything that's got that fun cartoony thing going on.
Yeah.
I just picked it up in like a Sam Goody or something. And I was like, this looks fun.
Goody got it.
I put it in and I'm like, oh, this is all the things I like.
Yeah.
So I bought it and then I just became this like major crazy fan. In fact, when I was next in line, we opened for them 3 or 4 times. And it was so much fun.
Yeah.
But that band was different then. They were much different then. What he has going now is just a different sound, and it's big production, and it's all that. And that's you listen to anything else that's out there, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
So I mean, the fact that guy has been able to do what he's doing, I mean, hats off.
Yeah.
Not all of it's my cup of tea. I think that very first record will always be my favorite. The first 2 really are definitely, I love both of those so much. And I really liked kind of where they went after that. There's a lot of differences and changes, and you could tell like it's all kind of, I think if you sit and stack them up and you like line them up by the year they came out, I think you can tell like that it's very driven by what the sound is of the day at the time.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
And I think that's kind of what bums me out a little bit.
Yeah. I don't know. It's still, I don't know. The songwriting's good. I really like the songwriting. I may not like the
Feldy's
tone.
trying to write hits. He's trying to be like, let's see. There's a formula to hits. I'm going to see if I can utilize the formula to see if I can get one out there. And I don't know. It just, I
can see that.
It just doesn't. I'm glad that people love Goldfinger. I would never tell somebody to not love something they love. It's just, I just don't have that nostalgia for them. And I think most of my exposure in recent years has just been like, I don't really need it, because it's like you're saying, it's like, what's the trend now? And I think trying to do that, and it's just like leaves me feeling little. I can take it or leave it.
I can definitely see it. I was definitely more excited about their records when back a few years, like when things. I think they have a new one. I don't think I've even heard it yet. I think it's like they've redone some of their more popular tunes. Like they've re-recorded them and put out something. I haven't listened to that. I probably should listen to that at some point. But I don't know. For me, it was something about that discovering them and just being I will agree there are some things on there I don't love on some of the newer stuff. But then there's also some really cool stuff that I do, which I unexpectedly. Some of the more reggae tunes on the knife I really like. Whoa. Yeah. This is good.
Yeah.
And really like, it also could be a place and time for each person personally. Maybe you're more open to some of that stuff, Yeah. Typically for me, some of bands and their records, it just depends on when I jump in, right? Like the Descendants for me, my favorite record will always be Everything Sucks, because that's where I started.
Yeah.
Like I heard I'm the One, and I was like, this is it. This is like, could this be better? Like, it can't be better. Now, I can listen to some of the older records, and while I do like it, there's a lot for me, like production wise. Like, I know obviously it was recorded way back and it was different, and the technology is different, right? I have the same issue with Bad Religion. Like, I love Bad Religion, love them, but there are certain records I don't enjoy as much because of the production. I mean, I love the songs, you know. I think that everybody hates my favorite record, so we're not going to go there.
What?
I'm not going to tell you.
Is it a Bad Religion record?
It is a Bad Religion record.
Everybody hates it?
Mm-hmm.
Like Bad Religion fans.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, I feel similar. I feel like the period where I was really getting into them was what most people sort of consider the fallow period for Bad Religion. So I have a soft spot for some of those that people are not.
Okay, John, if you tell me what your favorite Bad Religion record is, I'll tell you what mine is.
Well, I think my favorites are, I did go back and then I started liking the older stuff more, but like the first stuff I really bought was like the New America.
Okay.
Process of Belief, like I don't know.
Generator, Stranger Than Fiction, Process of Belief, Empire Strikes First. I love those records.
Yeah, I love all those. Those are fantastic. It's still not my favorite.
Okay. Let's hit us with it.
Against the Grain?
No, which that's a good record too. I like that.
It is.
That's good. My favorite one is No Substance.
Oh yeah. What's the issue?
Except for the one song.
I guess it's kind of a weirder outlier for them.
Again, to me, it was at the time when it was the first one I heard.
Yeah.
And it was the production of it. Like, I could hear all the things. Like, all the vocal harmonies are fantastic. The songs are great. There's one song on there that I don't like, and if we can leave that one out of there, I will agree that's not a good one. But that one's my favorite one.
Right.
You know, we're kind of the same way with MXPX, because our first introduction to MXPX was Teenage Politics.
Me too.
And I think a lot of people would put other record, like, and we talked about this at length during our first season. Like, objectively, there are other records that sound better than Teenage Politics, but as the introduction to the band and what it meant for us at the time, as you know, early teen, or our early teens, it's just like you can't overstate what profound effect it had for us. And you know, I don't let anybody take that away from you. Don't let anybody take No Substance away from you.
I think it's just a funny thing, because you know, if we go back to the conversation of, like, you know, being, you know, so particular about some of your musical choices, even within that world, there's that, right? Like, I love Face to Face, and that self-titled record will probably always be my favorite, but Ignorance is Bliss is amazing.
Yeah.
And that's one of those that people are just like, that's terrible, it's not them. Like, it's so good though. Like, what do you mean it's not them? It's fantastic. But you know, I think that's what makes it fun, right? Just as a listener, as a fan, I could sit with my buddy Matt, we could sit literally every night and talk about this stuff at length until the sun comes up every day. Do it again. We just talked about that. It's okay. Let's do it again.
Oh, that's what Andrew and I do every week for the last 4 years. So
so great.
We're right there with you.
Yeah, man.
You know, talking about like different periods of bands and bands that have maybe a long history and different sounds with each album. I mean, I definitely think about Craig's Brother, each record being different, and I'm a big fan of the Insidious Lie and where he was going in that period. And that's sort of mid 2000s is when you were sort of most involved with the band, right? As sort of an official member. Do you have particularly strong or favorite memories from that period of being in the band and kind of what was going on with their sound at that time?
I think for me it was just a lot. There was more about like, I'm in this thing. Like how
Right.
in the world am I in this?
Yeah.
Right? And it was a lot of fun. It was an experience for sure. Getting to hear all the stuff that was on that record, like as it's being made, and then hearing like what it ended up being.
Yeah.
It was always really cool. We used to sit around with acoustic guitars and just jam and
Cool.
tweak this and tweak that. And who knows? There's actually a song from that time that's on the new one that I haven't heard.
Okay, cool.
I hadn't heard that one in a long time, and that made it onto this one. So that stuff's cool. But it was just all that stuff. Like there was so much happening, and the shock of like, oh my gosh, it's like one of my favorite bands ever, and I'm in this, and I'm trying my best, and everybody's, it was just a lot of fun. Like some of the stuff that we got to do was really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. It's totally weird. It's a full circle thing. That's for sure.
Yeah, totally.
I think I can't remember if we talked about this a long time ago when you and I first chatted, and when we were talking about Craig's Brother stories. But can you give us any insight into the Klamath Falls song? And
that's a real thing.
I mean, I assumed it was based on the literalism of Ted and like what he writes. Like that is a folk tale. I know, and I love it. I love that song.
I can't give you much insight on that other than that I know that it's a real thing, but there's also there's been a lot of these events for the brother where they get stuck somewhere and they're there for a while. And that Klamath Falls thing, I think it's just one of the things that you do when you're stuck somewhere. Like, well, what do? We're just gonna sit here and wait for something to be repaired, right? We don't really have any money to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna hang out until we can make our way home. And it is what it is. There no insight needed. Unless there's a particular thing, then I can definitely find out for you. But for me, it was, I wasn't a part of that section of time. But I do know that is a thing.
Yeah. Remember that being the one where he was calling everybody assholes and
yeah, I think that's I'm stuck with these people, right?
Right.
It's really fun to be out there doing things and having a good time, but then when it wears on you, you're stuck with these people,
right?
And now you're really stuck with these people, right?
Right.
And it just becomes that that brotherhood.
Everybody's tired. Everybody's drinking.
Exhausted. Now you have nothing to do. You can go nowhere. You don't have any money to do anything anyway. Like, all right, we're really gonna have to batten down the hatches of sanity here,
right?
And that's happened a couple times for the brother, and it's I'm actually glad that's on tape because it's funny.
It is really funny.
I enjoy hearing it.
That's probably part of the trajectory we were talking about for a lot of bands too, is in the same way that you were cranking out records back to back in the 90s, early 2000s, and now you can space that out, like the monotony of touring and the crushing touring, although there's an excitement to touring, the fact that shows now for most bands are you play out on a weekend a month or whatever,
right.
Probably makes, I would assume, the live experience more satisfying too than just sitting in a bus for weeks on end or whatever.
I think for a listener or somebody that's in an audience or goes to a show and they see somebody that they absolutely love, a Bad Religion, MXPX, a Face to Face, or whoever, and you get to go on this one night that they're going to be there in your town or close to you, and you go there, and I think you walk away from those events like, oh man, it was so awesome, right? That might not be as awesome for those guys the next night or the night after that, right? Playing on a Tuesday in the middle of nowhere,
right?
Those are, I think, the moments where it kind of turns into like, oh man, this is rough, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
Of course, when they play at your hometown on a Saturday night and it's packed and everybody's having a ball and you're selling merch and everybody's into it and singing your stuff. Yeah, that right. Energy booster, right?
Yeah.
But I think for us as listeners, you go to some of these things and you're like, wow, I had a really good time, but I don't think of them tomorrow.
Right. Yeah.
I think of them as like what happened, what I just saw, right?
Yeah.
But not, oh, where are they going tomorrow? Right.
Right. Yeah.
It's Monday. I'm going to work.
Right. Exactly. There's such a, we've talked about this with other bands, but like the glamour, the supposed glamour of the touring life is like all I aspired to when I was playing in bands in high school. Like that's
for sure
all I wanted to get to. And then like to a person, everybody's like, it's pretty miserable. And like playing, you know, the hour or whatever, for the most part that you're playing the show is fun, but like everything around it is such a drag. And I understand that now much more.
Yeah, and I think a part of it for both bands now, I think that it's more turned into that thing like when you first start doing it, like I think everybody goes through that period of like, oh, this is what I want to do, and if I can do this and make a living out of it and not have to worry about you know, a day job or any of that stuff, that'd be so fantastic. And then, you know, I think it's like with anything, even like a professional athlete, like the people that actually get that that are lucky enough to have that opportunity, they're so few and far between. And so then you just kind of start kind of peeling off. And I think for both bands now, we enjoy getting to do the stuff that we can do. At the same time, I don't think there's any I don't think there's a confusion on whether or not we're going to do this and make a living and quit all our jobs. Like that's gone, right? For us, I think it's the best of both worlds of being able to hang out with each other and enjoy the music that we like and get to play the music that we like, and we get to have fun. And then that's what we do. And we schedule it that way. And then hopefully we get to do some really cool stuff. But it's not like, you know, the days I think are a little bit behind us of, here comes a 3-month, 3-month pull. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I would love in a perfect world, that'd be great, right?
Right.
But it's not that, you know?
Right. I know. Yeah. We're sitting here like, so when are the Chicago and Minneapolis dates, which are probably not coming, but I also like totally understand that that's,
well, you know, you never know. I mean, again, for us, I think it's, if it makes sense, I think everybody's excited to do it, but again, it's logistically like, if we could go do like a Midwest, you know, 3-4 nighter, right? And it all work out for everybody, then fantastic. And you see a lot of people doing that now, again, with the festival stuff, right?
Right.
I think that it's a great opportunity for both sides of it. Like I could get to go see all these cool bands I really like, all in one fell swoop, right?
I know.
Especially with what things cost these days. Like, whoa, some of that stuff is insane.
So I mean, play the Entry or the Turf Club or something in the Twin Cities.
You know, you guys could be a really big help in
just gonna say,
getting the ball rolling there.
You need some promoters.
You know, piece something together.
Let us know.
We'll have to talk about that. Because you know, we do have 2 new records coming out, and it would be fun to see who's out there that would like to hear the band.
I mean, there are any number of like decent small clubs that I think would be perfect for, you know, even like the Fine Line, John, you know, something like
that
would be awesome. You know, but we'll talk.
We'll talk.
We'll have to chat.
We'll get this figured out.
It would be cool, you know, getting some local people too, you know, and then have a you know, a little thing. It'd be fun.
Absolutely.
I'd be into it. Get to see some other parts of the country. I love that's always good.
Not a Klamath Falls situation. It'll be great.
I'm gonna be at First Ave. You know, I have a first next week. I'm gonna be at First Ave seeing Jimmy Eat World for the first time.
Oh yeah, Charlie Bliss opening.
Bliss is opening.
You are gonna enjoy that Jimmy Eat World. They used to play in Santa Cruz all the time.
Dude,
so back when it was like Clarity before Bleed American, it was like they were there every weekend.
Yeah.
This is what it felt like. They were just one of those, like just kept going for it. Fantastic. I've seen them a bunch. They're great.
Jim, what a dude. I'm just like, he's such, I mean, talk about dudes that can write hooks and melodies. And I admire, I love them. So
I'll tell you what, that Futures record, that one got me.
Whew,
that one got me. Oh man.
It's good.
I mean, I love them. I love Bleed America and Clarity. But that Futures one, that one really got me, which really is good. A little surprising because I'm usually more on the aggressive end of things, and Bleed American really kind of has more of that vibe, that crunch. But man, that Futures.
Well, yeah, I mean, because Bleed American is a perfect record, 10 out of 10.
Yeah, it is. Except for Futures.
I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying that for like that. I'm not one of those people that like throws around perfect records, but
that's, you're planting your flag in Bleed American.
Yes, on Bleed American. It's a perfect record, just like
that
single after single after banger after banger.
That is something. It is a good record. I
don't care what anybody says. I don't care how many times the middle got played. It's still,
boy, didn't it though? Oh man,
it's still an incredible song.
Yeah, no, totally. I feel
like there's like some perfect pop songs that you think about, like what's the Outkast song that Hey yeah, like it's a perfect song, but I've heard it so much that like when it starts I'm just like, oh man, like I'm sick of it, even though I haven't heard it for like a few years. Like even with as much as I've heard the middle, there's never a time that I don't hear those opening chords that I don't get like a little bit pumped. So anyway, there's certain songs that are great, but can't stand the test of being played so many times. And there's others that still retain the power somehow.
It's a good record. That's one of them.
Yeah. I mean, like just, there's not a song on this record. Come on,
looking it up.
I'm looking at the track list. Bleed American, A Praise Chorus, the middle, Your House. Come on. Oh my gosh.
Is this a Jimmy Eat World episode now?
It is.
Are you gonna do that? Hey, are you gonna do a Too Bad Eugene one? Are we leading that direction? Because you haven't done those.
We probably should, right? We talked about it last season. It's just a challenge of getting all these bands in one season, but it might be time.
Yeah. For real.
I mean, you're gonna have one. You're gonna have one to do here pretty soon.
It's true. Yeah.
I know Adam would be pumped, and he would come and talk to you. Cool. He would love to sit and chat with you.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
So would Ted, I'm sure. I can make that happen.
I don't know. I feel like I don't know if we've how many you talk about angry Ted. I don't want to have an angry Ted at coming at me.
He left us some nice voicemails. I think we're in a good place.
I'm pretty sure he said like. He's like, fuck you or whatever to me. But, like.
But he was saying it, in a way that you would tell a friend is what he said. He didn't he didn't consider friends to be people who never shared anything negative. So he like.
Yeah, you know what? He did tell me to tell you something, but I can't recall.
I think it was.
What it was?
You're dead.
Was it your days are numbered? No, was it like a single, like a finger of some kind?
No, it was something it was something for both of you, like in one statement, but I just can't remember.
Was it like?
Can't remember.
Was it like get fucked or something like that?
I don't know, something about be nicer, or I can't.
Oh,
come
on,
Ted. We'll do our best.
I can't remember. But you also have to know Ted, and there is some humor behind all that stuff. Which makes me laugh too.
We heaped many a praise upon upon that dude. I feel like where we left things off with Devils in the Details,
No, it's
left on a high note.
It's gonna be great. I'm pumped to discuss that. It would be great to get to Too Bad Eugene if we can discuss that too. Really excited for these records.
Yeah.
Jason, it's been awesome hearing about all this stuff. Is there anything else that we haven't covered that you were hoping to talk about tonight?
Boy, I don't think so.
Okay.
Just look for those new records coming out. I'm also going to put in a little plug for my buddy Anthony. I was in a
Yeah.
band with this guy Anthony when I was next to mine. He was our lead singer. He's in a fantastic band if you like kind of bluesy rock stuff. They're called Little Hurricane.
Oh, cool.
So check out some of that stuff if you feel you want something a little different. But yeah, other than that, it's been fun, boys. I'd love to do it again.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much.
I'll have to keep my eye on what you're reviewing, and if I feel strongly about something, then maybe I'll come back and we'll have some conversation about Andrew's opinions about Ted.
I like that I'm the one with the controversial opinions here.
Depending on the episode.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, man. Anytime you want to come back, let us know. Thanks for your support over these months. And everybody, check out Little Hurricane and check out Too Bad Eugene's Distance out September 14th. This week as this episode drops. And Craig's Brothers Easily Won, Rarely Deserved out November 11th. Both records on People of Punk Rock. Do it, everybody.
And stay tuned. You might see us somewhere out there. There's talk. We'll see.
Awesome. Jason, thank you so much, man.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
She moved out to a SoCal beach town from the Bible Belt and got a job at a mega church 'cause she was pretty. She was a daddy's girl, debutante Southern Belle, but California offered new identities. They loved her sweet smile, so they put her on the stage. But something was amiss down in her soul. She worked her heart out and they took everything she gave. But spiritual.
Well, thanks to Jason Ragan joined the pod.
Absolutely. What a good dude.
Yeah, good dude. We're gonna hold them to their promise that it was a promise that they will be playing some shows in the Midwest.
Signed a contract.
It's legally
It's all
binding.
coming up soon. Yes, very pumped for both these records. So everybody go check them out, starting with the record this week. But yeah, in the meantime, let us know what you thought about this conversation, about these new records as they come in over at Magnified Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Follow and subscribe if you haven't already, and give us a rating or review. We will read your Apple Podcast review on the pod. Email us at magnifiedpod@gmail.com.
You can leave us a voicemail at 872-762-4763, 872-7MAGPOD.
You can support us at the Patreon, patreon.com/magnifiedpod, where, Andrew, we have a new Patreon punk this week. Our dude Brian Walker, an OG supporter from the early days.
Yes.
I think he was a Patreon punk previously, right? Or maybe this is his first time. I don't know. It seems like he was in there earlier, but I know people dipping out. I do that. I do that as well with Patreon. So anyway, he's showing up again this week. So we got to shout our dude out regardless and give him a little of these. Some Aaron horns for Brian there. Great guy. Welcome back to Patreon Punk Ranks. Folks can also pick up some season 4 merch at magnifiedpod.storeenvy.com. Thank you to Small Step Records for sponsoring us. Go to smallsteprecords.com to learn more. And thanks to shadow producer Jason and Bruno at Unoriginal Vinyl for our artwork. Well, I think I hear the voice of the spirit begging us to shut the fuck up. We'll be back to try to make you go astray next week when we'll discuss Morella's Forest, Ultraphonic Hiss.
As I reflect back on it now, I can see where we went wrong. Our disunion was there from the start. It just took some time to dawn.
That bass was
So good, man.
so sick.
Very tasty.
I mean, To be honest, I never listened to that first, at any rate, record by Too Bad Eugene. For whatever reason, it was not on my radar.
Yeah, neither of them are super familiar, weirdly.
Yeah. But yeah, that is some tasty,
very tasty
bass lines.
Ring ding
ding
ding ding.
Ring da ding da ding ding. That song Distance features Ted Bond. So they got him coming in on some vocals a little bit later in the song. So
it's all coming together.
It's all coming together, and that Craig's Brother, Too Bad Eugene's album, not too far off.
Hey,
in the distance.
That's right. It's good.
Nobody could see me.
No, but I liked it.
I was pointing at you, but nobody. That's not how vision works on podcasts.